Babe, it's 4 PM. Time for your EOCross practice. Yes, EOCross, the step that every ZZer loves to hate, hates to love, and also sucks at. Myself included. So I enlisted the help of some people over on the ZZ Method Discord, and any solution that is not mine, I will credit who came up with it or sent it to me, because I just needed some help getting a few more solutions to be more ergonomic and more efficient. The average move count of EOCrosses in this video is 8, which is exactly where you want it to be, and I don't think I could have done it without help because I only averaged 9.6. There is a little bit of a curveball though. The EOCross examples that I'm showing off are all X2Y neutral, meaning that they're going to alternate between being white cross and yellow cross, and having green or blue front, or red or orange front. I'm doing this to keep you on your toes and also to show you what X2Y neutrality looks like, because if you want to use ZZ, you should be X2Y neutral. Anyway, let's get into the examples. So we have 2 examples for every EO case, all the way up from 2 bad to 8 bad. I didn't do 10 bad because it's very unlikely that you'll get that if you're X2Y neutral. I only did 12 bad for logistical reasons. Alright, now I'm not going to sit and explain edge orientation to you, that's for a video in the future maybe, but I'm going to show off one trick, which is misorienting some edges while orienting others. This is used fairly frequently and is helpful for efficiency. In this case we have a 2 flip, so it's actually quite necessary. I'm going to do an R prime, and here we have 1 bad edge and 3 good edges on this face. By doing an F prime, we now have 1 good edge and 3 bad edges. This allows us to put the other bad edge in. We now have 4 bad edges on the front, and can do an F move. We can do something similar with 6 flips, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bad edges. Instead of solving 4, like so, and then having to solve 2 afterwards, we can solve 3 on one end, leaving us with 1 bad edge, and then set up 2, 4. There's also more situational cases where you would apply this to things like a 4 flip. Here we have 4 bad edges and they are all on the U layer. I'm going to solve this with L, F, U, R, prime, F. Okay, so let's get into the solutions, starting out with the 2 flips. All of the scrambles and EOCross solutions will be on screen. And if my turning is bad, that's because the setup is awkward. You'll just have to excuse it. So this is the first scramble, and we're going to be solving it with this orientation. It's a 2 flip, we can see our bad edges are here and here. So let's walk through the thought process here. Our green edge is here, and we have the blue opposite it, which is perfect because those 2 colors are opposite each other. If we were to use the front face to solve the edges with, say, F, R prime, F, and then restore this cross edge with R, these 2 would be solved relative to each other. They're not solved in their place, but they are solved relative to each other. Since this doesn't affect the blue edge, we can bring the blue edge around, then that's also in place, and then we just have 1 cross edge left. It's back here, our open cross slot is here, so we line up the missing cross edge with this, put it in, D2, that's an EOCross in 8 moves. Our next 2 flip will have this scramble. So, once again, we're not going to be doing any rotations, this is going to be the orientation that we go from. So, the first thing I notice off of the scramble, apart from it being a 2 flip with these 2 edges here, is that we have this line here. These 2 pieces are solved relative to each other, and they're both just a D2 away from being solved. So, what can we make from this? Well, we're going to be using some form of FUF to solve these 2 edges. So I want to solve them in a way that leaves the green edge and the blue edge opposite each other on the cube, because then it will be easy enough to insert them next to our pre-existing line. In this case, we do this with F prime, U, F prime. As you see, we have the blue here on this side and the green on this side. To solve our EOCross from here, we'll do a D prime, solve these last cross edges in relative to the line, and another D prime. Okay, 2 flips are cool, let's step it up to 4 flips. This 4 flip solution was donated to us by Uno, who is typically a root solver but isn't half bad as ZZ either. We're going to be solving on a white cross with a blue front, so we're going to do an X2 rotation. He actually starts out by solving 3 out of 4 edges on the back, instead of going to solving all 4 at the same time. He does this with R, B, and then he's going to do an R prime to bring this edge back here. From here, he's going to solve these last 2 edges using FUF, but it's important which F he does at the end. With an F prime, he will leave the blue edge here and have these 2 cross edges stuck in the wrong spot. Instead, he does FUF to put the red edge on the bottom, which is actually solved relative to these 3 corner pieces. So the end of this solution is DF2. Okay, so our second foreflip has this scramble. And we're actually going to be doing white cross with orange front. Orange front, come on Swagrid. So the rotations are Z2Y, or I guess X2Y prime if you want to do it that way. So the 4 bad edges are these 3 on the front and this one in the down layer. So naturally, the easiest way to put them on the front layer would be RU, but I'm not going to do that, because we have this red edge here and this orange edge here. So if I do a U2 at the start, then when I do this R, this orange edge will be 1 move away from being solved relative to the red edge. So now, when I do the U, now once we've reached this point, we need to think about what F to do, because we need to think about if or not we want to solve this cross edge. Putting it into the cross here, it would need a D in order to be solved, to go next to the blue center. But the rest of the edges, the red one and soon to be orange on the other side, would need a D prime, so it would be wrong to put this in. So instead, we do an F. After this, I solve the orange edge that I set up earlier, put the line in its correct spot, bring the blue edge over and down, and if you want to have the most move efficient EOCross possible, I would just do an L for a 9 move EOCross, but if you throw in 1 extra U move, we get a 10 move EOCross with a free pair made. And a keyhole as well. So, with our 4 flip demonstrations out the way, let's do some 6 flips. So for this solution we'll be doing white cross with blue front, so we need to do an X2 from the Scramble notation. So our 6 bad edges are these 3 on the front, this one in the U layer, and these 2 at the back, 1 in the E slice, 1 in the D slice. The easiest way that I could see to do EO from here would be a U and a B, because doing this B with only 3 bad edges on the back would give us 1 bad one in the U layer. We can then do a U2 to leave us with 4 bad edges on the front face, and an F. This F is incredibly convenient as it puts this orange edge in opposite this red edge. And as you can see, we have the blue opposite the green ready to insert for the cross. The problem here is that it wouldn't work. If we'd inserted them, it would be wrong. So we have to do a D2, insert, and then solve. If you're particularly good at inspection, you might notice this corner here with this edge and cancel your EOCross solution into an EOXcross, and then oh, you get another free pair. And a keyhole. What with sick continuations today? Now let's move on to our next 6 flip. The solution to this one was donated by Uruba, and it starts with a Y and a Z2. So for this scramble, our bad edges are here, here, and here, 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 and here. Now what Rubik does is an R to collect 3 bad edges on the front face, and then an F. Again, this is solving 3 bad edges and giving us 1 extra bad one, which is common practice in 6 bad edges cases. Now from here, we can do a U to put this bad edge on the back there, and because we did an F and not an F prime, we can do an R2 to set up this bad edge over here. If we'd done an F prime, it would have been on the wrong side of the cube, but doing an F left it on the right. You could do an R2, and then to figure out which direction B we need to do on the back, we just need to take 1 look, see that we have a cross edge here, so doing a regular B would solve it, and we can solve the last 2 cross edges on the front with R prime F2. But while this is an efficient solution, 7 moves, I need to show you something. Okay, so why is it that the longest solution is the faster one? The answer is simple. It's ergonomics. Our 7-move solution, as contributed by Yoruba, can be done with 1 regrip. The 8-move one, contributed again by Uno, can be done with no regrips. Sometimes it's important to have a lower move count if it means having better ergonomics. So I'm going to show you the more ergonomic solution now and walk you through that one as well. So X2 because we want to solve a white cross, and Y because we want to solve with a red front. We start out with R2 U prime. This solves the green edge here, as we already have the blue one solved, and puts 3 out of 4 bad edges on the back. Doing a B to solve these 3 bad edges into good edges and make a 4th one also solves this edge down here, which means we now have 3/4 of a cross done already. The remaining moves, you are putting in this edge back here without disturbing this cross edge, bringing this bad edge back over, and orienting edges while inserting the cross edge. Alright, this next scramble is the first of the 8 flips, and it goes like this. This solution was contributed by Uno again. We're not going to be doing any rotations as we want to solve with green front and yellow cross. Now, the easiest way to put 4 bad edges on the front would just be to do an R prime, but in this case that's not what we want to do. We want to set up to have a nicer EOCross. We have this blue edge here, and this red edge is already opposite the correct center. If we do U to line this up here, R2 to put the blue edge on the green edge, which is of course the opposite center, then F, we have 2 edges that are opposite their centers, and 1 edge that is 1 move away from being opposite its center.
Swagrid, you dumbass, it is opposite its center, it just needs an R prime to be a part of the cross.
From here, Uno just inserts one of these 2 edges here into this slot. In this case he chooses to do this one with R2UR. This is just a way of inserting it that preserves this edge and makes sure it doesn't go stray and end up on the top or the left of the cube somehow. It makes sure that it stays on the right side, and in this case puts it in place. He then just does a B to orient the last 4 edges while putting the green edge in, and then it's just D2 away. Alternatively, when Uno got to this state, he could have just done U, R, B, R2. It's the same amount of moves, it's just the same solution reorganized, and it makes just as much sense. And on to the last example of the video. I bet you're dying to go watch something else. Okay, so this solution was contributed by Zakamoshi. We're going to start out again by just orienting 4 and placing 1 edge opposite where it belongs by attaching it to the opposite center, and we're going to do that with R prime to put 4 bad edges on the front, and then an F prime to put this blue edge down here. Now the remaining bad edges are these 2 on the back, this one in upper right, and this one in down left. He collects these 2 together with a U prime and a D prime, and orients them with B, because we had this red edge here, and a B will solve it relative to the blue edge here. Again, they're not solved in their place, but they are solved relative to each other. From there, he proceeds to actually put them in their place and solve them, and the last 2 edges are up here and back here, so he just solves it with a quick L, F2. I can't do the good F2 finger trick, it's hard to help. Alright, this video took way too much effort to make, so hit the subscribe button, or I will come in and manually give you super flip every scramble.